Welcome back, everyone. This is Indie Reads Aloud, a storytelling podcast. I am your host, Diana Catherine Penn. We are in season 5. Super, super fun. And today, one of my favorite authors is back in the studio with us. This is Chelsea Leslie. This is her second book she's going to be reading for us. And she'll be back with a third maybe next year. So we'll see how that goes. Welcome back, Chelsea.
Thank you, Diana. It's good to be back.
I am so excited for this. I love this book. This is Ghost Gags and Grim Tales. It's a collection of short stories, most of them in the horror genre, but some of them touch in other areas as well.
Yes.
So the last book that you published was called The Midnight Man, and it was a really creepy horror thing. It was it,
Yes.
it was kind of edgy. I liked it. I had a lot of fun with it. What made you decide to do short stories? Why move away from a novel into a collection of shorts?
Actually, it was thanks to Pages Promotions. You are always pushing your people, your followers to go outside their box, as it were. And with all those lovely prompts that were always being posted, I was just writing on the side, and it was just kind of time to share them. Some of these stories I've been sitting on for years.
Hmm.
Um, and it was fun to revisit and like polish them up for it to be editor ready. And it was just time to collect them all together.
So, you you said you'd been sitting on some of these for years.
Mhm.
Tell us about the beginning of your writing journal. I know that you're a teacher, but did writing come before teaching or teaching come before writing?
I've been writing since I've been a child, actually. My parents are going through their empty nester phase, so I actually
Yeah.
just got a folder of old stories that I had written when I was in elementary school, and they were awful, but even back then I wanted to be an author, and that was my first series at 7 years old. It was The Adventures of Pizza Girl. She was my superhero.
Very cool.
The whole 6 sentence stories. They were that was I was convinced those were gonna get me published someday.
Well, and they eventually did because they brought you to where you are now.
Yeah, I just never stopped writing. The story actually that I'm gonna share today was one I wrote back in high school. It's nothing like it was back then.
You've revised
Um,
it considerably since then.
oh yeah, there used to be a framing device in it that's completely gone now. But I'm a bit of a hoarder when it comes to stories. So I have bits and pieces of stories that I've written, started, abandoned over the years, and then obviously sometimes it'll fit for an anthology that Pages Promotions was promoting, and I was able to again just revisit and rewrite with my new or more mature voice, I guess. So it's
So
fun.
at Pages Promotions, we do these anthologies, and the last one just is probably coming out next week. And you contributed so significantly to that. I'm so grateful because these are charity books. Um, what's the difference between for you between writing what's in your head and writing from a prompt? Which do you find easier, and is there a different process?
I would say there is a different process. I think actually the prompt makes it easier because it's guidelines and as you mentioned before, I am a teacher, but I'm more specifically a special ed teacher. So I am very much like a boundaries, a rules, a black, it's white kind of
Mm-hmm.
world that I operate in. So a prompt helps me um stay in a lane, pick a
Okay.
lane. Well, if it's in my head, it can get a little messy. I am a what we call a pantser.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes what's in my head is the middle of a story or the ending of a story. And then I have to build from there, and it's a lot more complicated. Um, I am, like you said, working on another manuscript to send off, and it's another one that's been in development for years, and just reading some of the parts that haven't been touched in years. it's frustrating because I'm like, what was I thinking back then? Like, what did this mean?
It's interesting how our creative perspectives change over the years, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Timelines apparently are not my forte. Going through this manuscript, I keep referencing like a few weeks ago. I'm like, but it wasn't a few weeks ago. We said it was a few hours ago.
Timelines can be tough.
Yeah, so the prompts it kind of helps spark something and it plays with that side of me that could be a plotter.
I'm trying to nurture you in that direction. I've been working on it for years now, just inching you along.
Yeah, I try. I try my hand at plotting and then just pantsing is what's comfortable.
I get it. Everybody's different. Okay. I am ready to hear your story today. I am super excited. So the name of the book is Ghost Gags and Grim Tales. It's a collection of shorts. It is available on Amazon for those of you who would like it. Check out the show notes to learn more about Chelsea and her work. What story are you going to read from the collection today?
I'm reading from the humor section, so the gag part of the title, and it's going to be Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer, that
Oh, super
classic
fun.
Christmas song.
I love that song. So much fun. All
Yeah,
right. Chelsea Leslie, when you are ready, please take the microphone and read aloud.
of course. Grandma got ran over by a reindeer. Grandma was always the beating heart of the neighborhood, with her silver hair tied back in a neat bun and her trademark holiday apron perpetually dusted with flour. She was the embodiment of Christmas cheer. Her farmhouse sat at the edge of a sprawling subdivision, its glowing windows a beacon of warmth in an otherwise cookie cutter neighborhood. She wasn't just any grandma, she was grandma, the kind who could fix a torn mitten, whip up a batch of cookies from scratch, and tell the sort of stories that made you believe in magic, even as an adult. Her Christmas eggnog recipe, perfected over the decades, was legendary. People joked that it contained just the right amount of cheer, a delicate balance of rich cream, warm spices, and a secret ingredient that only Grandma knew. Every December, her home transformed into a holiday wonderland. She'd spend weeks stringing popcorn garlands, baking cookies shaped like snowflakes, and setting out bowls of homemade peppermint bark. It wasn't just about decorations or treats, it was about creating a sense of connection. To Grandma, Christmas wasn't a season, it was a feeling. The amount the annual community Christmas party was her favorite event of the year. She watched it grow from a modest gathering of neighbors into a sprawling town-wide celebration. In the early days, families brought homemade treats and handwritten cards to exchange. Kids giggled over board games, and adults lingered by the fireplace, sharing stories and toasting with Grandma's eggnog. But this year, something felt off. As Grandma entered the venue, carrying her prized eggnog and its cherished crystal pitcher, she immediately noticed the changes. The warm glow of the fireplace was replaced by the cold hum of LED lights. Instead of exchanging cookies and cards, people instead snapped photos in front of a rented backdrop that read Merry and Bright in neon letters. A pair of teens sat slumped in the corner, their faces lit only by their phones, barely acknowledging her as she passed. Her smile faltered when she reached the refreshment table. Alongside her eggnog were several plastic jugs of the store bought variety, labeled low fat and vegan friendly. The hot chocolate bar, with its artisanal marshmallows and peppermint stir sticks, was drawing more attention than her carefully prepared pitcher. Grandma hovered near the edge of the table, waiting for someone to notice her contribution. A young mother, balancing a toddler on her hip, poured herself a cup from one of the store bought jugs without a second glance at Grandma's pitcher. It's just easier this way, the woman said to another parent. You never know who's lactose intolerant these days. Grandma's chest tightened. Easier? Since when was Christmas supposed to be easy? As the night went on, her mood darkened. She tried to start a round of classic Christmas games or entice the children to build gingerbread houses, but the kids barely looked up from their screens. Sorry, Grandma, one of them said. We're in the middle of a group chat. She approached the teenagers clustered around the photo booth and offered them a tray of cookies. Who even eats carbs anymore? One of them muttered loud enough for her to hear. Even the adults seemed distracted. Instead of reminiscing about old times or singing carols, they were talking about online sales and complaining about shipping delays. The once lively chatter, punctuated by children's gleeful giggles, was now interrupted by the occasional ding of incoming notifications. Grandma retreated to a corner with a sugar cookie and a cup of her own eggnog. She watched the party unfold, her heart heavy with disappointment. The warmth and togetherness that once defined this event had been replaced by convenience and apathy. It's not like it used to be, she muttered to herself, staring at her cup. Not at all. When the clock struck 9, Grandma slipped her coat over her shoulders and quietly made her way out the door. A few people noticed and offered to walk her home, but she waved them off with a wavering "I'll be fine." Her boots crunched rhythmically through the snow as she trudged along the narrow road, the distant sounds of the party fading into the hush of falling snow. It was a beautiful night, one she might have appreciated if her heart weren't so heavy. Memories of past Christmases filled her mind, the laughter of children, the smell of gingerbread, the way the whole town used to feel like family. Disappointment twisted in her gut and her fist clenched around the handle of her mostly full pitcher, only a few cupfuls missing. Her breath formed little clouds in the frosty air as she muttered to herself, her words lost in the wind. Low-fat eggnog, plastic marshmallows, kids glued to their screens. What's next? No Christmas tree because it's too inconvenient? Her grip tightened on the handle of her pitcher, which now felt like an anchor pulling her deeper into her discontent. She was so lost in her thoughts that she didn't hear the frantic clattering of hooves cutting through the stillness. When the sound finally registered, Grandma turned, confused as the noise grew louder. Not far down the road barreled a reindeer, its eyes wild and antlers glinting under the streetlights. The beast was massive, larger than she expected any reindeer to be, with flaring nostrils that sent clouds of steam into the night. A tangle of broken reins dragged behind it, whipping against the snow. Blitzkrieg, she whispered, recognizing the notorious reindeer from the holiday pen with the man dressed as Santa. The reindeer corral had been part of the festivities for years, but everyone knew Blitzkrieg was trouble, temperamental and prone to breaking free. The volunteers often joked about needing liquid courage to handle him, and apparently they'd taken their own advice a little too seriously. The reindeer bore down on her with terrifying speed. Grandma's feet froze, her mind racing between indignation. Who lets a drunk Santa volunteer to handle an unruly reindeer? And self-preservation. Move, you fool! But before she could act, Blitzkrieg plowed into her like a freight train. The impact sent her sprawling into a snowbank, the pitcher flying over her hand. Snow filled her mouth, her ears, her eyes, and for a moment the world was a blur of cold and chaos. She felt hooves slam down near her legs, the vibrations rattling her bones. Blitzkrieg snorted and stomped, the reins tangling around her ankles as he struggled to regain his balance. She pushed herself up and caught sight of the pitcher, now toppled in the snow and spilling its contents like a tidal wave of eggnog that soaked into the ground. Her stomach churned with frustration. All that eggnog wasted. Get off me, she wheezed, clawing at the snow. The reindeer bellowed, his breath hot against her face before kicking free and bolting into the night, leaving Grandma crumpled in the snow. For a moment, all she could hear was the pounding of her own heartbeat. Then came the pain. Her legs ached, her ribs throbbed, and the weight of the situation and the lost eggnog descended on her. She lay there staring up at the stars, too stunned to move. Somewhere in the distance, she heard voices and laughter, likely from the partygoers who were blissfully unaware of the chaos she just survived. The thought hit her like a second blow. Not only had no one come looking for her, but that precious eggnog was spilling into the snow. What a catastrophe! The snow began to seep through her coat, chilling her to the bone, but Grandma didn't move. She wasn't sure if she couldn't or if she just didn't want to. Her mind churned with resentment as the cold sharpened her thoughts. It was nearly an hour before someone found her. A neighbor on their way home spotted her crumpled figure in the snow and rushed to help. "Grandma, are you okay?" the man gasped, helping her to her feet. She winced as she stood and brushed snow from her coat. "Just peachy," she muttered, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Didn't anyone walk you home?" he asked, frowning. "Nope," she snapped, too busy with their fake marshmallows and their photo shoots to care about an old woman. She didn't miss the flicker of guilt that crossed his face, and it did little to soothe her. As he walked her the rest of the way home, she barely spoke, her thoughts churning like a storm. By the time they reached her porch, she had decided on two things. One, no one in this town cared about her anymore, and two, something had to change. Grandma's injuries were minor, a few bruises, a twisted ankle, but her pride was deeply wounded. For the next several weeks, she replayed the events in her mind, the bitterness growing with each retelling. The empty gestures of sympathy from her neighbors only made it worse. It was just an accident, they said. "You know how unpredictable animals can be," they said. "Maybe you shouldn't have been walking alone," they suggested, their words coated in that faux concern that made her blood boil. By the time January rolled around, Grandma had shut herself off from the world. She turned away visitors, ignored phone calls, and spent hours in her garage, tinkering with what sounded to pass her by like machinery. The once cheerful farmhouse now loomed over the neighborhood like a shadow, its windows dark and its porch barren of decorations. The neighbors whispered about her transformation, but no one dared to confront her. What they didn't know was that Grandma wasn't just wallowing in bitterness; she was planning. Grandma's disappearance from the community wasn't sudden, but it was complete. At first, people knocked at her door with pies and casseroles, hoping to cheer her up, but after too many unanswered knocks, the visits became less frequent. By spring, the once busy porch was blanketed in dust and cobwebs. By summer, children whispered about the witch house at the end of the road, daring each other to go up and touch her front door before fleeing. Inside, Grandma was busy, her home usually filled with the scent of cinnamon and evergreen, now reeked of burnt circuitry and chemicals. The kitchen table, once a gathering place for cookies and cocoa, was now buried under blueprints, wires, and strange contraptions. She spent hours in her garage, her sleeves rolled up and her face streaked with grease, and she worked on what she called her project. Every clink of metal, every burst of sparks from her tools were fueled by a single thought: they need to learn what Christmas is really about. As the year dragged on, the neighborhood buzzed with speculation. Do you think she's okay? One neighbor asked over coffee. Probably just embarrassed, another replied. Getting trampled like that, I'd hide too. Maybe we should invite her to the next book club meeting. But as summer gave way to fall, concern turned to exasperation. Honestly, what is she doing in there? Someone muttered after hearing a loud crash from the garage late one night. Maybe she's building a bunker, another joked, or a bomb, added a third, laughing nervously. But no one laughed at when the holiday season rolled around and Grandma's house remained dark. The absence of her twinkling lights and wreath covered windows left an odd void in the neighborhood, like a missing puzzle piece. On Christmas Eve, the community bustled with activity. The party relocated this year to the neighborhood park was in full swing. Children lined up to take pictures of Santa, adults sipped hot cider, and everyone admired the newest additions to the decorations. A dozen life-size reindeer sculptures arranged in sparkling sleigh pulling formation. They were stunning, crafted from polished metal with glowing eyes and sleek bodies, and gleamed in the light of the bonfire. The organizer beamed with pride as people gathered around to take photos. Where do these come from? Someone asked. Anonymous donation, the organizer replied. Isn't it wonderful? It wasn't until Grandma arrived, staff in hand, that the true purpose of the decorations became clear. The first clue was the sound of her boots crunching on the snow. She strode into the park like a woman on a mission, her usual holiday apron replaced by a heavy coat and gloves. Her silver hair glinted in the firelight, and her eyes sparkled, not with warmth, but with something sharper, more dangerous. Grandma, one brave soul ventured, we didn't think you'd come this year. Oh, I wouldn't miss it, she said, her voice dripping with sweetness. She paused near the reindeer sculptures, admiring her handiwork. Beautiful, aren't they? The organizer frowned. Wait, are these yours? Grandma didn't answer. She simply reached into her pocket and pressed a button on a small remote. The sculptures came to life with an ominous hum. Their glowing eyes flickered, and their polished metal legs began to move. Gasps and screams erupted as the reindeer started to circle the crowd, their heads swiveling to scan each person. What's happening? Someone yelled. They're scanning us, another shouted as the reindeer paused in front of a man holding a disposable cup of eggnog. The reindeer's eyes flashed red. A compartment in its chest opened, and a spring-loaded boxing glove launched outward, smacking the man square in the face. Nice try with that store-bought junk, Grandma called out. Chaos erupted. The reindeers weren't just scanning, they were judging. Anyone holding a phone, sipping from a plastic cup, or wearing earbuds was seemingly labeled naughty and met with increasingly absurd punishments. One child, clutching a bag of vegan marshmallows, yelped as a reindeer shot a stream of sticky caramel at his feet, gluing him in place. As the crowd scrambled to avoid the mechanical reindeer, Grandma climbed into a makeshift stage. This is what Christmas has become, she bellowed. Convenience over connection, screens over stories, low fat eggnog. She spat the last word as if they burned her tongue. You all forgotten what this holiday is supposed to mean, so I've taken it upon myself to remind you. Someone searched for a way to deactivate the reindeer, but they were met with a sharp zap and a puff of smoke. Oh, don't bother, Grandma said with a grin. They're running on holiday spirit. A wonder, really, considering there's not much of that left around here. By midnight, the reindeer had herded the crowd into a single shivering mass, sticky with caramel, cocoa, and deep Yuletide regret. Grandma surveyed the group with grim satisfaction. Let this be a lesson to you all, Grandma declared, her voice cutting through the cold night like tinsel through a paper snowflake. We used to stitch our gifts with love, not slap our names on shipping labels. We sang off key and meant every word, not let some algorithm auto tune our joy. And don't even get me started on the eggnog. Cartons, people? Cartons? She took a solemn sip from her thermos, then raised it high. Christmas isn't supposed to be efficient. It's supposed to be magical, messy, full of warmth and weird traditions. And that one neighbor who always burns the cookies but tries anyway. Yet somehow, along the way, we traded all that for next day delivery. She paused, letting the silence settle like fresh snow. This isn't just about one bad party, it's about forgetting what matters. And if that means a little chaos to set things right, she gave her staff a small menacing twirl. So be it. The crowd nodded furiously, too frightened to argue. With a press of a button, the reindeer froze in place, their glowing eyes dimming as they returned to harmless statues. Then Grandma turned, her boots crunching across the snow, and strode purposely towards the pine trees near the edge of the clearing. Someone whispered, I guess we all learned something today. What's that? Never make Grandma mad. But the night wasn't over. Just as the crowd began to shuffle away, the sound of grinding gears echoed through the frosty air. From behind the tree, a second wave of mechanical reindeer emerged, larger, sleeker, and hauling an enormous sleigh, outfitted with glowing lights and a throne-like seat. Atop it sat Grandma, now wrapped in a glittering red cape, a wreath of holly in her silver hair. In one hand, she held a thermos of her infamous eggnog, in the other, a candy cane staff crackling with electric sparks. Attention, neighbors! She boomed into a megaphone. This is your official naughty or nice review. The sleigh lurched forward and barreling on the crowd. Families scrambled to display their holiday cheer. We're caroling, one group shouted, launching into a painfully off-key version of Jingle Bells. Too little, too late, Grandma barked, zapping them with a blast of glitter glue that sealed their mouths shut. Another family frantically tried to reinflate a deflated Santa. A reindeer scanned it and its eyes glowed red. Boom, the decoration burst, coating them in synthetic snow. By dawn, the neighborhood park looked like the site of a candy coated uprising. Tinsel clung to trees like battlefield shrapnel. Glitter shimmered on rooftops. Sticky footprints trailed the house from house to house, and in the park the reindeer stood, victorious, battered but proud. Grandma's sleigh came to a halt at the entrance to the park. She stepped down, planting her staff in the snow. Let this be a reminder, she declared, her breath fogging the cold, that the spirit of Christmas isn't found in apps or sales or half hearted cheer. It's found in love, warmth, and most importantly, she raised her thermos, good eggnog. The neighbors, defeated and thoroughly festive, nodded in agreement. And one more thing, Grandma added, eyes twinkling. She pointed her staff at the sleigh, which let out a low mechanical hum. Never trust a grandma with a grudge or an Amazon Prime account. The end.
Well done.
Thank you.
Don't mess with grandma. That can be dangerous.
Yes.
That was super fun. I love that story.
Thank you. It's one of my favorites I've ever written. I'm not gonna lie.
So how long does something like that take you to imagine and then get on the page?
Well, like I said, it started off as something stupid that I wrote in high school based on a student in my class like misunderstanding what a story or teacher like hit a deer on the way to school. That's how it started. And then our classmate thought she was talking about the song Grandma Got Ran Over by a Reindeer.
And then your imagination went elsewhere.
So I'm like, what if it was someone like planting deer? So it was like I said, it was a completely different story when I was 14 to now, like 20 years later. Um, but I actually my family, my father's been a professional Santa Claus for years now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a professional Mrs. Claus, so Christmas is really near and dear to us. And a lot of it actually stemmed from conversations him and I had, and just from him going to so many different Christmas parties. And he said, it's actually the smaller parties he refers, because those are the ones that seem to still have that holiday cheer and that kind of
Right.
stuff.
Yeah, they haven't been over commercialized.
Well, he
Yeah.
does a lot of country clubs as Santa, and the same
Ah,
thing he
okay.
said. He goes, it's bizarre when you have like a small child coming up to you and asking for like a Tiffany bracelet.
Yeah, that is kind of odd.
So that's kind of I had always wanted to rewrite that story, and those conversations with my dad as like, some people who love Christmas. I was like, what if grandma like took it so seriously that what if she
Right.
was so obsessed with keeping Christmas, the Christmas traditions, she just went off the rails.
And if you got an Amazon Prime account, you can order just about anything.
Yes, so that's how it started. Was just conversations with my family, and just with the changing times, just I thought it'd just be a fun like little parody to make.
It's terrific fun. It's a really great story. I loved it. Um, Tell me, because this is a short story collection,
Mhm.
tell me the titles of two other stories in this book that you like, and just give me an overview about what they're about so that we can introduce the book a little bit more completely to
Yes.
listeners and readers.
One of my other favorite stories in here is called A Dishonest Kiss. It is about lost love, or a second chance of love, between some college age people, a boy and a man and a woman. And the man feels like he's lost his second chance with her, and it's
Mm-hmm.
just kind of this exploration of, could they have, when they were kids they were really close and he thought he missed his chance because of who he is, and then it was about his perception of himself that basically ruined his second shot with her.
Okay. And a second story that you might find readers enjoy, or something that you really love?
It'd be One Night at Skateland. It's kind of like my
That's
own,
really creepy.
it's kind of my personal favorite brand of kind of thriller horror, um because it's a little bit silly but it's also scary.
Yeah, when I read that one, I was a little creeped out because it's a strange Stephen King-esque piece.
Yes,
And it
it's
it
about
kind of creeped me out a little bit.
it's about a place called Skateland, which is a roller rink, and a group of girls go there for a birthday party, but then things kind of go awry in a
Yeah.
Stephen King-esque way.
Yes, very Stephen King-esque. Yeah.
And that one I have to shout out to my former coworkers, Chloe and Lauren, because they're the ones who told me about a roller rink and like the stories they told me about it. I was like, that sounds like it'd be a perfect place for a horror story.
Yes. When I was younger, I used to go to a roller rink quite frequently. It's still in business, Skate World in Troy, Michigan, and I have some interesting memories of that place.
It was the way these girls were talking about it. I'm like, yeah, that sounds like some shady stuff might go down there. I'm like, you know what? Let's write a story about some shady stuff happening at a roller
Perfect.
rink.
It's
Um,
it's an
it's
unusual setting, but it
you know,
was
it's
such
dark, it's loud in there. Like a
yes,
lot of scary things can happen without people realizing it.
absolutely.
And
Yeah.
like I
And
said, I just think that one encompasses my writing style the best because it's a little
mm,
silly, a little scary, keeps you on
it
your toes.
yeah, it kind of walks the edges both directions.
And that's actually the story that closes the collection because I wanted it to end on something that I felt was the embodiment of that's my style.
Excellent. So, what is the project that you're working on that's going to be coming out next? Can you tell us a
Uh,
little bit about it?
yes, it's called Don't Say a Word. It's based on a Michigan legend, the legend of Morrow Road. It is an old folk legend for anybody on the east side of Michigan has probably heard of it. Crybaby Road, it's also been called. Um, but it's such an old legend that depending on who you talk to, the origins of the legend change.
Okay.
But basically the legend in a nutshell is a ghost haunts the road because she lost her baby.
Okay.
We worked
Cool.
on it's co-authored. Me and my best friend are writing it together. We worked on a haunted trail, and when it was dead, her and I would swap stories about like what would our characters, why are we haunting this road? So we made up a new origin to the legend is what if the staff of this woman are the ones who lost her baby?
Wow. Okay, that's going to be fun.
And it's again my brand of horror, so it has your thrills, your chills, and some giggles as well, like because these two are young women and then they're just kind of goofy as they try to cover up this murder, and then of course, or not murder, that they lost the baby. But you know, more stuff happens that they feel like they have to cover up, and it's a little goofy, it's a little scary.
Perfect. I'm looking forward to that.
It's
It's going to
historical,
be
it takes place in the 1800s, so that's been a
oh,
fun
super fun.
so it's been a fun curve. We actually have a binder that we've had for years that has pictures, references of clothing. We went to different libraries, historical societies to get like because it takes place in the 1800s in Algonac, New Baltimore area. So we wanted to get like actual businesses, actual names of people. Um,
That's a wonderful
yeah.
dichotomy, a pair of pantsers doing research. I just love that. That's
Yeah,
super fun.
well, like I said,
Awesome.
it's you can tell which parts we've worked on extensively, what parts have not been touched. So that's been really fun to kind of like revisit the whole thing now that it's like, oh, somebody else, but like outside of us is gonna read it.
Yeah, that's going to be fun. We're looking forward to that coming out. Thank you so much for your time tonight, Chelsea. I really appreciate it. And thanks for reading to us. And thank you for all you do to support the indie community and charities with your writing. It's really amazing the gifts that you give back. So thank you very much. Have an awesome night.